Hello, it's Soul, and this is Warcraft Weekly, your weekend reminder. This is just a game that's taken a hold of our lives. You can help support the channel by liking this video, subscribing for more WoW coverage, and catching me whenever I'm live. Today's recording is going to be a lot more plain than usual. I'm still going through this entire move process and fixing up the house as I move in, so it's going a little bit slow. It's obviously affecting how much time I have for production, but I still want to be here and present to have some conversations with you, and I'm grateful for you sharing some of your time with me. So, streamer privilege is ruining the game, according to some strong reactions, after Blizzard announced they'd be making an exception to their policy on WoW Classic Hardcore that they'd restore users whose deaths were influenced by the recent rounds of DDoS attacks. I'm going to crash course you through a few things. A DDoS, or a distributed denial of service attack, is basically a flood of internet traffic using a network of bots distributed from all over the world, slamming into the WoW servers simultaneously with the intent to disrupt service or otherwise bring the whole network crashing down. Now again, in the context of World of Warcraft, this tends to result in things like server disruptions or login issues, authentication things, and of course, lag. Classic Hardcore is hardcore. It's World of Warcraft with permadeath, and early on, Blizzard was really clear they wouldn't restore characters under any circumstances, whether it's from lag or the servers crashing or their own bugs and design, you name it. But now we need to talk about a guild called Only Fangs. It's a guild full of streamers and content creators in Classic Hardcore who united under this singular vision, which is to get lots of views and clicks. To no one's surprise, when you get all these personalities and their viewers together, you get this form of reality TV, but you know, it's WoW, it's a gaming. Think what you want of these streamers, but it's thanks to them and their audiences. It brought lots of Twitch numbers to World of Warcraft, which translated into a form of advertisement, which probably resulted in subscriber counts going up by a value greater than 0. DDoSes happen in WoW. How often they happen, it's not fully documented, and only on occasion has Blizzard admitted they're under an attack. DDoSes happen during Classic Hardcore as well, sometimes resulting in a bunch of player deaths that were not restored at that time. What makes this recent event a bit different, and this is just my observation, is these rounds of attacks allegedly were specifically targeted for this one guild, timed to mess with their raids in the hopes of getting them killed, and it was pretty successful. Like, it first delayed their run, and a day or so later, another DDoS ended up wiping a good chunk of the guild mid-raid. Not to mention the attack messed with other players on hardcore servers and every other version of World of Warcraft and other Blizzard games. So long story short, the guild was very loud with their complaints, and a few days later, Blizzard announced they would do this one-time restoration for those affected by those recent attacks, while making it clear this is something they'll do at their discretion, pointing out that this was all due to an external attack. Restorations are underway as of this writing, and the WoW team specified they're focusing on restores for those who were affected on March 24th, which I think was, I think that's the day after the attack. Maybe I'm counting the days wrong, but it's safe to say that, like I said, people who died during the attack are going to get their characters back. I'm going to call out a few takes and opinions, but I also want to make clear too, like, I have no skin in the game. I wasn't part of OnlyFans, I don't play hardcore, but I'm finding this whole thing fascinating to observe, and I just want to see what people think. So, why are people mad? One would figure that Blizzard should make this one exception for a coordinated and persistent attack on servers with a bunch of hardcore deaths as a consequence. It would be a pure nightmare for them to do nothing, as if they condone the behavior, as if external malicious attacks like this are a part of the hardcore experience. What kind of message would it send if they were to let people who DDoS them win by killing off a bunch of players? And on the flip side, it's an easy win in favor of players who were killed by no fault of their own. Reversing the deaths means the efforts and the possible money paid by these DDoSers, it lost their effectiveness and hopefully discourages them from doing it again. The problem some are having is this belief this exception was made because it's the big streamer guild who got hit, and it's hard to argue that because that's exactly what happened. Though some think it's only going to be the guild that will be restored, and regular players affected within this time frame, they're going to be left in the dust, which is not true. It's kind of cynical, but fair to ask, why is it that the big streamers got Blizzard's attention when all manner of Blizzard-related problems and other DDoS attacks may have caused player deaths before now? We also gotta ask, if OnlyFans wasn't a thing and Classic Hardcore didn't get the elevated and consistent attention over the past couple months, would this coordinated attack have occurred in the same way? Like if some big famous celebrity were playing hardcore on their own, like Taylor Swift or SoulSoBreezy, and some jackass DDoS them and bragged about it even, should Blizzard do nothing in front of all of their fans and viewers? Now, I'm offering just my opinion here. It seems that yes, OnlyFans was the big shiny straw that broke the camel's back in this case. But if the DDoS has continued, Blizzard would break eventually. If not this week, it could have been like that one too many reports, or it could have been a Wowhead or some other news article critical of Blizzard's handling of this situation and their inaction, making themselves an even bigger target. Or Blizzard could have just keep letting things go on and eventually give up on the hardcore experiment completely, shut the servers down. Like what sort of message would that send to attackers and fans? I've seen chatter suggesting that while Blizzard's response is good, the timing to start these exceptions with these most recent victims, it shows favoritism with streamers, and the policy should start for future hardcore deaths, after this DDoS attack. It goes as far to say that Blizzard's sole discretion is a hint that they won't take any action unless it's another big hit against streamers. And yet, I don't know, like it feels like that underlines the point of why the restores are happening now. Like, we don't know exactly how many people were killed during these attacks. Most of the attention is on the streamer guild, but how many others were killed in other raids or dungeons or like random caves? Because remember, let's not forget, this is hardcore and nearly every encounter can be deadly. To suggest the restores shouldn't happen or should happen for future attacks disregards all the other players affected during this event just to satisfy some anti-streamer sentiment, which in my opinion, that's kind of petty. Non-OnlyFans characters shouldn't be treated as collateral damage. These actions, they seem very fair and straightforward. Like, this was arguably maybe the biggest DDoS attack during this hardcore season, and everyone affected is gonna get a hookup. In the future, they'll keep DDoSes in mind during mass death events and then make a decision. So I'm glad they're doing this at all. Like, in what world do we want the DDoSers to win? Like I've been saying. It'd be pretty dumb for Blizzard to just let hardcore burn all around them, but be like, oh, well, at least we didn't go back on our word. At the same time, I don't think it's such a great idea for every major disruption like a DDoS to warrant a restore, and Blizzard can easily measure the difference between like a small disruption and a big old attack. Best case, they work towards reinforcing themselves against attacks. They're already pledging that. And I think this recommendation of mine, it's a bad idea. I want you to hear me out anyway, but what do you think of them also being more responsive with alerting gamers of an attack as it goes on? Like, in a way, they'd be covering their ass, being like, okay, well, we warned you and you raided anyway, so your restore request is denied. Systems similar to that might encourage DDoSers to like keep doing their thing, maybe not to get characters killed, but to just laugh at even these minor disruptions. And what if those alerts do happen to go out? Like, people would probably mass hearth, and those who might have theirs on cooldown in like some cave or whatever, oh shoot, they might be screwed. And then we cascade into all these other what ifs and more disruptive solutions. The takeaway here is pretty simple, I think. Just don't let them win. Don't let people from outside the game take away people's experience. And if it takes a restore to reduce that, hey, I'm all for it. This week's PTR build confirms what horrific visions are meant to be and who's most likely to take part. I'm going to explain, but here's what we've learned this week. The corruption effects from Battle for Azeroth, they're coming back and are going to be helmet enchants. This means we can only use one at a time, and we can't stack multiples, especially because there's no corruption effect to counterbalance for those who happen to remember that. Also, the enchants are warband tradable, which is great, but they'll only work until the end of Season 2, meaning the start of Season 3 they're going to be turned off entirely. So it kind of sucks. This is something we can only play with during this season, and it's already going to be a talking point. And players are going to feel like they have to do visions in order to get these enchants, which counters the more relaxed nature of World of Warcraft these days. Now, thankfully, the access to these enchants seems to be warbound. Now, imagine if people felt like they had to prep all of their characters for Season 3 as well. Thankfully, we won't have to do that. On the other end of things, there's a purple bike similar to Incognito to work towards, so I'll see you in those upcoming vision guides. On top of that, it appears there's going to be an additional upgrade sold by vendors that will make future drops from Horrific Visions warbound. So this perk is limited up to champion gear, but this basically means we can't trade around hero gear that we earn, but we can farm up all the other available rewards from visions each week and then hand them over to our alts. My understanding is that they're sending a message. 11.1.5 is about alternative progression for lower item level characters and like this big collector's bonanza for appearances. If you're looking to change things up, like, hey, here's Horrific Visions as well as this whole Nightfall progression thing to be a different or an additional way to earn gear. Now, no doubt, some of you are absolutely underwhelmed, like, wow, useless gear, that's brilliant. And yet, that's exactly what a lot of players asked for. They wanted patch content that they didn't feel forced to do. They could just casually go in and out of it. Instead they can continue progressing on mythic raids and pushing higher level keys. The exception being those corruption enchants that people are going to be kind of directed to for a little while. I keep reminding us of this because the mid-season 1 patches, they're not too far behind us, with the anniversary patch events followed by Siren Isle. Season 2 so far is following a similar pattern, with a do-what-you-feel-like approach as opposed to being super locked in. There are exceptions, of course, like Plunderstorm and the anniversary rewards in Season 1, and these corruptions in Season 2. The difference here lies with the accessibility. Nightfall and Horrific Visions, they're made with the solo experience in mind. From what I'm seeing so far, this approach shows a lot of promise, even though we're 100% going to see the usual critiques that come with everything these days. That's going to be the show, and I want to thank you again for putting up with the weekly, you get it? Anyway, with any luck, I'll be close to starting production from the new stage. I can't wait for you to see it when it's done. So let's give a big old thanks to everyone who's joined me for the live streams. I love the company, especially when we can celebrate collecting another shield. Yes. Thanks as always to our beloved patrons, and then there's you, viewer. You made it to the end. You fed the algorithm. So all that's left is to like this video. Catch me when I'm live, and I'll catch you later. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.